In this 3-minute game review, we're looking at Endzone 2. So hit the like and subscribe buttons and let's get into it. Endzone 2 is an early access post-apocalyptic city builder with exploration and resource management. Fans of the predecessor Endzone 1 and other games like Frostpunk and Surviving the Aftermath will find many familiar elements, like the gameplay loop of building, researching, scavenging, and exploring important points of interest across the world map, all whilst trying to maintain sufficient supply of important needs like food, water, and medicine, so that your colonists can survive incoming disasters and catastrophes. However, Endzone 2 does a couple of things slightly differently compared to its predecessor. For example, settlements are divided into island-like spots, where each island has its own randomly generated resource combinations. In addition, you will need to manage multiple vehicles and create transport routes between settlements so as to ensure that your settlers get what they need in order to survive and thrive. You will also have to explore points of interest on the map, not just for the extra resources, but for research points, which are currently the only way of advancing in the game. The expeditions on these points of interests are like a puzzle game with some inventory management, where each obstacle requires certain tools or items to bypass. Sometimes you will need to open up 2 or more locations to get the necessary tools to progress past certain obstacles. With each tier unlocked, the research tree will require more and more points, ultimately pushing you to explore the map and open up new sections by repairing bridges to cross rivers. As of early access, there currently is only one available mode of play aside from the tutorial, and although the gameplay loop is more or less the same, there was at least some good replayability from re-rolling randomly generated maps and trying out different building layouts for the most efficient builds. Endzone 2 may not have a linear story just yet, but some bits of narration during expeditions does provide some nice perspective and world building every once in a while. Not to mention the cluttered and detailed environments really fleshed out the bleak apocalyptic landscape. The game is mostly voiced. Units, narration, and even the occasional quest givers are voiced, which is nice on top of a tense electronic soundtrack. While Endzone 2 isn't the most groundbreaking game of the genre, it does feature some well-loved mechanics and a well-executed gameplay loop of building, exploring, and expanding, which currently offers several hours of good fun. However, as of early access, there are some slight flaws. For example, expeditions tend to be quite repetitive in the late game when you need to farm more research points. I wish there was an option to either increase the walking speed during expeditions or to simply have an alternative late game way to get more research points. Perhaps by building an expensive research center once you get far enough. Some of the resources still feel very imbalanced, like how you end up with a ton of scrap, but have barely enough cloth and coal to make protective clothing to supply your colonies. In addition, some performance issues and long load times might affect players who might not have a beefy PC to play on. All in all, despite these flaws, Endzone 2 has a great foundation to build on. Given more updates and patches, I'm sure the developers will continue to improve on it and turn it into a great game, just like what they did with the previous one. As such, I would recommend fans of base building games to wait for more patches and updates, or otherwise, if you don't mind its current low price, jump into early access for several hours of fun gameplay. If you're craving for more base building games, check out our other videos. Otherwise, hit the subscribe and notification buttons for more 3-minute game reviews.